Evening, folks. Brian here, Geomagnetic Earth Watch Friday, excuse me, January 27, 2023 on our planet. Let's talk just a little bit more about the fear-porn doom and gloom flood maps, and let's interject a little bit of critical thinking and some omissions that people are not telling you. Everything is a theory, everything is a hypothesis. I don't care how big egos are. You can't push this stuff and present visualizations which only instills panic and fear in people. People are hearing now about pole shift and 40-degree nonsense. He's disappeared, hasn't he? Yeah. And they get a little bit confused. They don't know what to believe, who to follow, right? They may realize that something's going to happen, and they want to prepare themselves and their families. What do I do? Where do I go? How do I prepare? Lots of questions. How high do I have to be? How far away from the coast do I have to be? Slow down and think a little bit. I'm going to present some information to you. So here's some flaws in the missions in the Crustal unlocking and displacement theory. There's no talk about the disconnection from hot spots and mantle plumes. I often been telling you about mantle plumes. So I'll remind you, a mantle plume is a rise of mantle material. They are anchored to the outer core where our magnetic field is generated from. Mantle plume will rise through the mantle, upper mantle, through the lithosphere, in some cases causing lithosphere melting, thinning, and up to the underside of the crust. When you have a pulse of mantle, or what I call a magma wave action. It's when we get our volcanoes popping off and our earthquakes. An overall push and rise of the seafloor, setting off those tsunami boys. Another example is the Iceland plume. Now, this in and of itself is not an independent plume. This is actually an arm or a branch from the much larger Greenland plume. So again, these are anchored to the outer core. So think for a minute, if you're going to have a crustal separation and shift, Iceland shifts away off of the mantle plume. Another example is the Hawaiian hotspot. The Hawaiian Islands were formed over a geological process of millions, if not hundreds of millions of years. So the hotspot again is a mantle plume. If my pencil is the mantle plume, tail, my eraser is the head. My knuckles is the chain of Hawaiian Islands, formed over a very long geological process through the mantle plume. Very long geological process. If there was a crustal shift the last time, what about the continuing formation of the Hawaiian Islands? The plume is still there. The plume remains anchored to the outer core. So there's two things, there's two theories. This is the core, this is the crust. One theory is an unlocking and shift of the crust by 90 degrees, one way or another. Another theory is the actual physical rotation, axial rotation of the planet. Thus causing the ocean inundation. So when people are talking about crustal displacement unlocking, an ocean inundation across the lands, and they're showing you all these doom and gloom flood maps. They're leaving out the very important mantle plumes. So if this happened the last time, if it shifted, there would have been volcanism in that former location, wouldn't there? And where's that evidence? I'm sorry, folks, I don't believe in this. It's quite possibly this could have happened. But I don't believe in this as the result of a flash from a micronova that hits the Earth at a precise time, adamant, based on only and solely a mathematical computation, only, backed up or suggested by evidence of ocean inundation. I'm not disputing evidence of ocean inundation. But let's consider, one, an impact into the oceans. Asteroid, we just had a little brother pass by us and just nick us. Who says Big Brother isn't right behind him? Or maybe Big Daddy, huh? Who says that didn't happen before? Let's not dismiss the possibility of megathrust earthquakes causing tsunamis. Let's not discredit or forget about the possibility of all those island volcanoes scattered throughout the ocean, and there's 1 million on the seabed of volcanic eruptions, chunks of the island slumping off, as it did happen in La Palma's history, not September 21, but before that, causing massive tsunamis. Get on Google Earth, switch it to 3D, and look at all the different volcanic islands, and you can see how in the geological past, big chunks of the islands just slumped off, right? They're all over the place. And let's not forget, he said he would never ever do that again or allow it to happen, flooding the earth, as depicted in the recent sea level rise map. And he stated, well, I just set it at the lowest parameters because the highest one was too scary. Well, what was presented was scary enough. So he won't do that again. But what he will do, and as he stated, oh yeah, there's going to be fire and brimstone, baby, all over the place. Volcanoes. Acts 2, verse 19. So again, what evidence was there the last time that we had a crustal shift? Those mantle plumes still being in place and active. Wouldn't there have been volcanism in those former locations before? So to say and be adamant, and it absolutely will happen within this specific time period, and there absolutely will be a micronova, and it will hit the earth, and it will cause this, and it will do that, and it will unlock the crust, and this is going to happen. People, there's a series of events expected to happen before then that's going to take you out if you're not prepared. We have 2 solar maximum periods spread by 11 years. We're just now getting into one, with the potential of larger X-class flares hitting our already weakened magnetosphere and taking out our grid. If not this peak solar maximum, the next one, before the hypothesized, oh, it's definitely going to be a micronova. You need to think about these events and the uptick in earthquakes during solar maximum and volcanic eruptions. And our planet has already been telling you La Soufriere in St. Vincent's, the Caribbean volcanic explosion, a very large one during the beginning of the pandemic. La Palma, Honga Tonga Haipai. Tambora lighting up again. So when you're talking about preparing and where are you going to move to, you need to prepare for the potential of a grid down situation within 2 years by 2025. And this is what I keep on repeating. This is not a fear porn statement. It's based on everything that I've been watching. And it's also based on the World Economic Forum stating that there will be a major cyber attack by 2025, which just happens to be at the peak of our solar maximum, where we're going to have those bigger X-class flares. And we don't need an X-45 to take out our grid, because our protective magnetosphere is already weakened. It's like the World Economic Forum or the elites or the governments know that this is going to happen, but they're using the excuse and implanting into your psyche, well, we're going to have a major cyber attack, and it's probably going to take out the global grids. Cover story. They don't want you to know what's going to happen up there. It's just like you got to prepare for Bill Gates' statement. There will be another pandemic within the next 2 years, and it will be worse than the last one. And you need to prepare for the beast system. You need to prepare for all of these things. You don't need to prepare for an ego saying that this is going to happen because my math says it's going to happen, and then present a very scary flood map. Mantle plumes, stationary, anchored. Crustal displacement, mantle plumes stay in place. Now, when you're talking about preparing, yes, get the hell out of the cities. Yes, get off the coast. For the simple reason of that ocean impact from a large enough asteroid, megathrust, Cascadia subduction zone, other subduction zones. Sumatra 2004, 244,000 Indonesians killed. Megathrust earthquake tsunami. As the more and more pressure is pushing up underneath the Earth's crust. And as I've shown you a few examples already around the Australia area. All the events from the Coral Sea, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, working its way up into Indonesia. It's not fear porn, it's just what I see. This is what I pass on to you. As well as statements from other people, what they see is going to happen within the next 2 years. Those people who have the power to do things as they have already been doing, Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, and others, I would pay more attention to them rather than some guy with an ego who wrote 2 papers and has a couple of textbooks. And prepare for those eventualities in just a couple of years. This is why I say, you have 2 years to prepare. And I'm not presenting some doom and gloom flood maps. I'm not presenting a hypothesis. I'm showing you what I see every day for the past 6 years. Suggesting or indicating that the pressures are building up. And the one unknown factor is, when is our sun going to pop something off staring right in our face? he's saving his best work for the last, in my spiritual opinion. So this concludes my talk today about doom and gloom visualizations being put out there. All I suggest to you is to stay focused on the here and now, not someone who says by 2030s, 2040s in his opinion is going to happen. Prepare now for the earth changes coming up. Prepare now for the elite, what they want to do to you. And prepare for the beast system. Don't get trapped in it. Because very clearly in Scripture, before we enter into the 7-year tribulation period, we have to go through a beginning of sorrows and birthing pains. That's it for now, folks. You have a swell evening.